This is my first season 5 theory, and it's going to be about Max. We left off on a sad ending with Max. She's in a coma, so the biggest question is she gonna survive? My answer is yes and no. Here's the thing, Max could wake up but she won't be Max. She's just a body at the moment, because the Max part of her is gone. 11 just restarted her heart, so her body survived. Vecna has her soul and her mind with him, because when Elle went in her mind it was blank and just darkness. He for sure has it, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to open the last gate. So the gang is going to have to kill Vecna to get Max back, and they have a time limit, because Max's body isn't going to last long. Also Max is probably trapped in Vecna's mind layer, and if he kills that Max, they'll never be able to get her back, so Season 5 is definitely going to be packed with lots of crazy stuff, just like Season 4. I do think she will survive, because if they were to kill her they would have done it in Season 4, unless they want to give us hope and then just kill her, but that would be absolutely cruel. So just hang on to the fact that Max will be brought back, just not at the beginning of Season 5. I'm going to expand more on some of the parts from my last theory. I said that Max is trapped in Vecna's mind. I'm going to stick with this, because it actually makes a lot of sense. Vecna has Max's mind with him, therefore she's somewhere in his lair. But we have to remember that Vecna got very hurt at the end of Season 4, we don't know where he is. So in that time he was hurt, Max could have found a hiding place. Sadie will be back for Season 5 filming to film these scenes, which is really exciting, but she'll get to play Max's mind instead of actual Max. Max's mind is just going to be regular Max in Vecna's mind lair. So this gives the gang even less time to save her, because if Vecna finds Max that could lead to really bad things. This is basically going to be like Will in the Upside Down but a more complex weird version, because the gang can't go to the Upside Down to get Max. It'll be a tough battle, but they'll save her. It'll just be really scary for Max, because Vecna can also find people really quickly in his mind. Here's the thing though, Vecna can't kill Max's body, because he doesn't have a connection to it. He was only able to kill people through their minds and he has her mind, and her mind isn't connected to her body. That doesn't mean he won't torture her in her mind though, and he could kill her mind too, which would get rid of Max forever. Wish her some good luck. I wanted to start off with big theories like this, because it's fun to just take a big guess with having no information about the season at all. So this could be completely off to what actually happens, however that's the fun of theories. Vecna will be back for Season 5. He didn't die and I think we all know that. But once again, Vecna is already dead. So how do you defeat him? He has weaknesses, but I think the only way of truly defeating him is to change him. Vecna once was Henry Creel, who was an ordinary boy, kind of. He had a lot of hatred for people, but he still probably had some soft spots to him. However, once he became Vecna, he buried all of that away and hid those memories and happy thoughts from everyone, even himself. And that's what Vecna is all about. He shows people who they really are and shows them secrets that they hide from themselves. For example, Max hid the fact that she wished Billy would die and Vecna used that against her. So the gang can use the fact that Vecna does care for and loves something against him. He'll realize that there was something he cared about and that he wants more than world domination. I'll get to what the thing is in another theory, but remember, one of the biggest messages from the show, as cliche as it is good overcomes evil, and I don't think they're gonna step away from that. Now this doesn't mean some sacrifices won't be made, but that's for another theory. I'm here to reveal who Vecna's weakness is, and as most of you guessed, it's 11. This has kind of been hinted since we first saw them on screen together. Vecna has been weirdly sweet to her. Well, I'm here to explain why. Vecna loves 11, in a fatherly-daughterly way, because that's right, Vecna is 11's biological dad. I talked a lot more about this in a past theory, if you want to go read it. But anyway, I just want to point out that Vecna had a plethora of opportunities to kill Elle and get rid of her, but he never did. He doesn't want her to die, he wanted to save her from his awful plan, which is to destroy every human on the planet. However, now it's a little trickier, because Elle didn't want to join him. This angered him, so he almost killed her, but he didn't. And now he's waiting for his plan to work so he can kill everyone she loves in front of her. She got a glimpse of this when she witnessed Max getting Vecna'd, which is worse pain than her dying herself. But that's not going to happen, because Elle is going to use this love he has for her against him. She's going to confront him of this. Once he realizes these feelings he'll start to weaken. He's not redeemable, so he won't become good. But the gang will go after him once he's weakened enough. There's more to this theory, so stay tuned. I talked about 11 being Vecna's weakness last time. Well, Vecna sometimes haunts his victims with memories. So Elle is going to haunt him with some of his good memories. He probably has these memories locked away in the deepest, darkest part of his mind. That way he can forget about them. So in order to confront him of these memories, Eleven is going to have to go into his mind and find them. I'm not really sure whether or not she can specifically enter into his mind. If she can, that leads to a shortcut, but if she can't, she'll have to have someone else get Vecna and go into his mind, then enter that person's mind leading her to Vecna's lair. I'm not 100% sure how that works yet. But once she's there, she can look for these memories. And once she finds these memories, she'll find something new about her and Vecna. She'll find out he's her dad. I'm sticking with this, because it would be a really good arc for the both of them. I was imagining one of the memories being Henry holding Elle in his arms for the first time after she was born. That would be one of Vecna's happiest memories for sure. Eleven will see this memory and know that she's the answer to ending this. She's the only person Vecna ever loved. After this, she'll confront Vecna and he'll start to weaken. She'll then know for sure that his good memories and herself are his weaknesses. We'll just have to see how that works out. Stranger Things 5 is going to circle back to the beginning, which means Will be the focus. Even though it may not seem like it, a lot of things lead back to him. And that's what I'm here to talk about. Why did Vecna go after him? It wasn't just a coincidence. He went after Will, because he saw himself in Will, which is the same reason he kept going after Eleven, but for different reasons obviously. He went after Eleven, because she grew up in the lab just like he did, but Will relates more to pre-lab experiment Henry, emotionally not physically with the powers and stuff. As you notice in Season 4, there are so many parallels between Will and Henry. Both were sensitive kids and felt like outcasts. Vecna knows Will's secrets, and maybe instead of using it against him, he'll try to help him, and by help, I mean manipulate him. Vecna wants Will to help him. Since things didn't work out with Elle, he moved on to someone else who could help him, someone who may relate to him. Vecna will use Will's insecurities and feelings to manipulate him into joining him. Will most likely deny, because Vecna is evil. Obviously he doesn't want to do it, but maybe a small part of him will think about joining Vecna, because Vecna understands him. That sounds really weird, but I'm just thinking about this quote we've all heard a lot. Let's make a new party, you and me. Now I don't think Will actually join in with Vecna, unless it's for sacrifice. I really want to dig into more of this theory but it's already too long, so there will be a part 2. This also ties into my other Season 5 theory. Will Byers has suffered pretty much every season from Vecna. Except Season 4, and the reason for that is, he wasn't in Hawkins. Anyway, Vecna can go after Will in Season 5, and he is for sure going to. Will is going to get Vecna'd, but not the same way Max or Chrissy got Vecna'd. He's just going to get Vecna'd so he can enter Vecna's mind. But he'll still be faced with trauma and insecurities, just like the others through a Vecna vision. I imagine his Vecna vision is going to be his family not accepting him for being gay, then him telling Mike and Mike also not accepting him, or him being trapped in the Upside Down again. It'll be really sad, but it'll just be a trick so Vecna can lure Will. Once he does, Vecna will explain and try to relate to Will and tell him his plan. Will obviously will deny, but Vecna will continue to persuade him. It isn't until one of his friends are in danger that he'll agree to join Vecna. I'll explain that in another theory. This will lead Will into being in a trance for a very long amount of time, so the gang has to now save Will and Max. It's once again just up to Mike, Lucas, Dustin, and Elle, which is the original gang from Season 1. The Duffers did say we will get original grouping from Season 1, so this fits perfectly. Stay tuned for a theory on Evil Will. The past Will theories actually tie into my defeating Vecna theory. Eleven needs to confront Vecna, and she'll actually be doing it through Will's Vecna trance. She'll go into Will's mind so she can save him and weaken Vecna. Vecna will still be in the middle of convincing Will when she makes her dramatic entrance. This will obviously lead to a mini battle between Elle and Vecna. And when Vecna is winning, Elle will start to weaken him with good memories. She'll start confronting him. She'll tell him that he loves her and that he wanted to save her from his plan. She'll also mention the fact that even when Vecna had the chance to kill her, he never did. Then Vecna will start getting weak. But even with all these good memories, anger still strengthens his powers, and he'll for sure be angry. In which, he'll try to kill Eleven, and when she's extremely close to dying, Will agree to join his side in trade for Eleven being safe. Elle will try to save Will, but she can't so she'll go back. But don't worry, she's not giving up. The gang is now determined more than ever to save their friends. I really want Evil Will, so I came up with a theory for it. Will's mind is currently with Vecna during his trance, and Eleven isn't there anymore. Now that Will's on Vecna's side, he's not really returning back anytime soon. And no offense, but Will isn't really that powerful, so how could he become powerful? He could get powers. In my theory Henry's powers, I explained that Henry somehow manifested his powers through his thoughts. He somehow accessed a part of his mind that is inaccessible to normal humans. But Brenner found a way to help all the experiments access this part of their mind, so Vecna can do that for Will. It sounds a little crazy, but imagine this. Imagine Vecna talking to Will about his secrets. He'll tell Will to think of a time that really angered him and made him sad. He'll think of those memories. Some of those being his dad leaving, Lucas and Mike making fun of him during their D&D game in Season 3, or basically any time he's been around Mike. Will holds so much inside of himself, and Vecna is going to help him get it out. Then Vecna will explain to him the cruel world he lives in, that just repeats itself every day. Once he focuses and thinks about it, he could access that part in his mind and generate powers for himself, and he can strengthen the powers by thinking of memories that make him angry and sad. After that, Vecna will send him back. This doesn't make him evil Will yet. We've actually already seen evil Will in Season 2, through the Mind Flayer. Could the Mind Flayer possibly make another appearance by possessing Will again? Will having powers and being possessed could lead to a lot of damage and be an even bigger threat to the gang. This theory is kind of a stretch, because of how packed Stranger Things 5 is, but I want evil Will. We'll just have to see what happens. A huge question that was left off after Volume 1 was, why is the Upside Down stuck in 1983? There are tons of amazing theories on this topic, so if you don't like this one, go read one of those. This is just my theory on why this is. I don't think Vecna just went after Will, because of their connection. I think Vecna is obsessed with Will. The whole Upside Down is a copy of Hawkins, but maybe it's more than that. It's no coincidence that the Upside Down is stuck on November 6, 1983. I think maybe the Upside Down was created for Will. After November 6th, everything changed for Will. His friends grew up, they met 11, Hawkins started to fall. That was Vecna's trap. He took Will, so all of that could happen while he was missing. I'm sure Will would like to go back in time to when everything was perfect, before he got taken. Well, he can, through the Upside Down. Vecna created this place where Will could never grow up, and just play D&D forever. That is why all the creatures are references to the game. It's a place where Will can do what he wants to do and live the life he wants to live. Or at least, that's what Vecna thinks. That's why Vecna wants the Upside Down to take over Hawkins. He wants him and Will to have this perfect world where time is stopped. It's basically like Will's own Neverland. I do believe Will is the answer to ending this madness, but that's for another theory. I'm taking a break from these crazy big theories and digging into something more simple. Let's talk about the Jinsey versus Stancy argument. I'll start with Stancy. They hinted at this relationship a lot in Season 4, they even had us believe that the two might end up together. Which is crazy, considering how much their relationship went downhill in the first 2 seasons. Obviously Steve has changed a lot from the first season. He went from a jerky boyfriend to a lovable charming guy, and that does seem more like Nancy's type, so maybe they could happen. Next is Jinsey. It's no question that Jonathan and Nancy have had chemistry from the very first season, but now, they're actually starting to lose it. It could be the long distance, but also the fact that they are lying to each other. They do have shared trauma, and Murray is never wrong with his matchmaking, but I don't know if their relationship is going to make it. So who is Nancy going to end up with? My theory is, neither of them. Steve and Nancy getting together is just too predictable, and as charming as Steve is, Nancy is looking for something else. As for Jonathan and Nancy, there is no way the two are going to work out the whole college thing. I can see Nancy trying to compromise with him, by not going to Emerson, but Jonathan is too much of a sweetheart to let her do that. They just have different dreams and it's not gonna work out. Now maybe they could get together after college, but who knows. A huge hint at this was when Jonathan lied to Nancy at the end of Season 4, that's showing that their relationship will probably have a rocky path in Season 5. So in conclusion, I think Nancy isn't going to end up with any of them and she's going to go to Emerson to fulfill her dreams. I'm finally going to talk about what happened to Dr. Owens. First of all, I want to say that he is alive. We know the Duffers well enough that unless we literally see the character's dead body, they are most likely alive. We learned this from Brenner, Eleven, Hopper, etc. Last time we saw Owens he was handcuffed to a bar in the silo lab, unable to escape. 11 left, but there were other people there, the government, including Sullivan. Sullivan was last seen in front of the silo watching 11 leave. That doesn't mean he has given up on finding her though. That is why I think Sullivan took Owens after they all left. I'm sure him and the other government baddies will make an appearance in Season 5. He'll be held hostage for some of the time being, but an escape would be really cool for him. I really hope Owens reunites with the others, because honestly he brings a calming relief to the show. I don't know why. Also Brenner is gone so, he's the only Hawkins lab worker here to help. Let's talk about the Cult of Vecna, which was the name of the campaign the Hellfire Club was doing. At first I thought that the campaign was foreshadowing events in Season 4, but I think it's foreshadowing events to happen in Season 5. So first of all, in the campaign Vecna gets killed by Kaz, but then Eddie confirms that Vecna is still alive, and that they just thought he was dead. This is obviously referring to the fact that Vecna isn't actually dead, but the gang thinks they killed him. Except for Will, who says he can feel him, but that'll come into play later. In this metaphor everyone is Kaz, especially Eleven, and Vecna is Vecna obviously. The Hellfire members agree to fight till the death, which is probably what the Hawkins gang is gonna do too in Season 5. But like in the game, there's only 2 players left, much like in reality, where there will be 2 players left when it comes to the final battle, one of them being Eleven. Now this doesn't mean all the other characters will die, it just won't be up to them anymore, it'll only be up to Eleven and someone else. And when Dustin rolls his dice, he gets an 11, but it's not big enough to beat Vecna, which means Eleven will try, but she's not the answer to beating Vecna. Then when all hope is lost, Erica rolls a 20, which beats Vecna, and who do we associate with the D20? Will Byers. He's the 20 in this metaphor, he is the only person who can stop all of this. Whether it's through sacrifice or through actually having the power of beating him, I'll get more into detail of this in another theory. Lou Max had a very sad ending in Season 4. Luckily Max is still alive, which gives us hope for their relationship to make a return once Max wakes up. I stated in my theory saving Max that Max would be saved. I don't know how tragic the ending of Stranger Things is going to be, but her being okay is my hope. I want to talk about what Lumax's relationship is going to be like in Season 5. Max is in the hospital and Lucas has been visiting her. That'll pretty much be what's going on between them until she wakes up. Which my guess is, Max won't wake up until the end of the season. That doesn't mean we won't see her though. In my theory Max's mind I talked about there being scenes with her trapped in Vecna's mind. That's all the Max content we'll get until Max's mind is reunited with her body and she wakes up. We'll also probably get flashbacks of her too. But anyway, if Stranger Things doesn't end absolutely tragically, Lumax will have a happy ending in Season 5. Max will be blind and probably in a wheelchair, which I'm interested to see how they portray that. My guess is at the end we'll get to see Max and Lucas go on their movie date and hopefully they live happily ever after. It's what they deserve. Don't forget, this is Stranger Things, so it'll take a while for them to get to that point. They got to go through all the craziness that's gonna happen in Season 5 first. But after that, they can live happily ever after. Let's just cross our fingers that none of them will die. Season 4 foreshadowed a lot of things. At the beginning of Volume 2, Nancy described a vision that she saw. She described the 4 gates swallowing Hawkins, but also some things that we didn't see, which is interesting. She said that she saw lots of monsters, one having a gaping mouth. And actually, there's a monster in D&D that has a gaping mouth. The monster is called the Otyugh. This monster definitely fits Nancy's description perfectly. It's giant and has a gaping mouth. But there's another creature with a sort of gaping mouth that is giant, and that is the Basal Hydra. This creature was mentioned in Season 1 during the boys' campaign in the final episode. Obviously the creatures in the Upside Down aren't exact copies of the creatures in D&D, but some of their qualities and abilities are the same. Nancy also said there was a dark cloud spreading over Hawkins, which we did see at the end of Season 4, most likely a hint to the return of the Mind Flayer. There's going to be lots of monsters and creatures coming from the Upside Down, so I don't think there will be one main monster. The main monsters are Vecna and the Mind Flayer. Nancy said there was an army of monsters, so expect tons of monsters coming into Hawkins. For example Demogorgons, Demodogs, Demobats, and a lot more. I saw lots of theories saying the dragon from Will's painting will make an appearance, and it probably will. Season 5 is the end of it all, so there will be lots of madness. The battle is going to be the biggest one yet. I want to talk about Vecna's clock. We know where the clock came from, but we don't really know the significance of the clock and why Vecna uses it. There are some things we do know about it. It's from Henry's childhood. My guess is he hated the clock, because it kept going. Vecna hates time, that was never said, but you can tell by how he talks about life. He hated it when things in life kept going and repeating. The clock resembles that, and it will have a huge part in Season 5. His hate for time could also explain why the Upside Down is stuck in time. This also ties into Vecna's connection with Will. Will has a fear of growing up and time going too fast. Vecna might have had the same fear, but Vecna's fear was more out of anger and hate, so this could definitely come into play when it comes to defeating Vecna. Time will have a huge part this season, and time could mean many things. For example, Henry's fear of time, the Upside Down being stuck in time, and a time limit. Those are the things I think the clock could resemble. Vecna's goal is to stop time, hence why the Upside Down is stuck in time. I talked more about this in my theory, Stuck in 1983, so go check that out. Time might be another weakness that Vecna has. I have more theories on this topic, so stay tuned. Time is a threat to Vecna. Vecna should have died when Eleven was battling him, but instead El sent him to a new realm where he could stay alive, and the reason he's still alive is because there's no time in that realm. That may not make sense, so let me explain. In my previous theory I talked about Vecna hating/having a fear of time. This took a toll on him after he got sent away. Before he became Vecna, time wasn't really an issue for him, but after, it became his weakness. 11 used to be the only thing more powerful than Vecna. Now, that's not true. There's something else that's more powerful, and that's the continuous of time. I have this theory, that once a gate is open to that realm, the realm is now set to that date and time continues until that gate is closed. For example, the gate was first ever opened on September 8, 1979. Therefore, the realm was then set to that date. Shortly after that, the gate was closed, leaving it at that date. Then on November 6, 1983, the gate was opened for the second time ever, so it was then set to that date. Now I know what you're thinking, the gate was never closed after that for a long time, giving the Upside Down a chance to continue time. Well, that's because Vecna found a way to stop time. Sadly, I will have to explain that in another theory, so stay tuned. But for now I want to talk about how time is a threat to Vecna. I think this, because Vecna is technically dead, the continuous of time will make him vanish. So having the Upside Down stuck in time, keeps him alive. Which introduces us to Vecna's plan. At first, I thought his plan was to take over the world with the Upside Down. That is still his plan, but his goal is to stop time forever. So the challenge for the gang is going to be continuing time in the Upside Down. How they'll do it, I don't know, or maybe I have an idea. Stay tuned. Make sure to check out my previous theory before you read this one, so this theory makes sense. I'm going to explain how Vecna stopped time in the Upside Down. Once the gate opened on November 6th, Vecna knew he had to find a way to stop time before bad things started happening to him. And that plan involves a little boy of the name Will Byers. Vecna sent a Demogorgon to go kidnap Will. Once Will was brought to the Upside Down, Vecna connected him to it. That's what caused time to stop. However, Will isn't part of the hive mind. He's just connected to the Upside Down. This gives us more information on why Vecna cares about Will so much. He has to protect him, otherwise his life is at stake. Because if Will dies, time will continue and that'll ruin Vecna's plan and kill him. Vecna's goal is to stop time and take over the world. The Hawkins gang's goal is to stop Vecna and the Upside Down for good. They have to do that by continuing time in the Upside Down. That leaves Will in a little bit of a dilemma. They have to find a way to disconnect Will from the Upside Down, which will be a difficult task. It'll eventually come down to these two choices. Save Will and save Vecna, or end Vecna and then Will too. Unless, there's another way, which there could be. I did have another theory about the Upside Down being stuck in 1983, which is completely different from this idea. However, it could tie into this theory. I basically said that the Upside Down was created for Will, because Vecna is obsessed with Will, and the day is set to November 6th, because that's the last day before everything changed in Will's life. So the Upside Down is meant to be a place for Will to never grow up and just play D&D forever. Read the theory for more detail. This theory is completely different, but Vecna could use this excuse to lure Will into coming with him. It'll all come down to Will. 11 can help, but this is Will's battle. He has to make a choice on what's best. Whether that battle is with Vecna or his insecurities, I don't know. It could be both. Stay tuned. I've seen a lot of theories about how Vecna was the one who kidnapped Will in Season 1. He technically did, but he had something else do it for him. Every season Vecna tries to help his plan progress in different ways through different ideas. Vecna has never left the Upside Down, despite opening portals to our world. If he were to leave the Upside Down, he'd be in a place where time continues. That's why he wants the Upside Down to take over the world, so he can live on forever and time will be stuck. Vecna sent the Demogorgon into the human world to spy and kidnap Will. He couldn't do it himself, so he sent the Demogorgon to do the job. The Demogorgon also caused some other damage, such as killing Barb and a ton of other people. The Demogorgon eats humans and other creatures, because it's its food. Barb was sort of a different story, because the Demogorgon didn't eat her, she just suffered. We also have to remember that the Demogorgon is attracted to blood. Will was the only character that was taken that wasn't bleeding, which means he was the only one taken for a reason. Barb was just very unlucky with cutting herself and being in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is my best understanding of Vecna's intentions in Season 1. In Season 2, Vecna sent in the Mind Flayer. He used it to spy on the outside world using Will. But whatever plan he had with that obviously failed, besides the Demodog portion. Rip Bob. Next he tried the Mind Flayer idea again, but with a different approach. He wanted to create a Mind Flayer that could do more damage, and he ended up killing a lot of people. Then finally he came up with a way to kill people and open up portals without leaving the Upside Down. And this was the most effective for his plan, because now he has a chance of turning the world into the Upside Down, all from the comfort of his own home. At this point, getting Vecna out of the Upside Down isn't the answer. The challenge will be to make time start going in the Upside Down. Vecna's plan is super confusing, so expect more theories on it. Season 4 gave us a lot of plotlines following different groups of characters. Season 5 will be the same, but will include familiar groupings we've seen before. As I've mentioned before, the Duffers said Season 5 will have similar groupings to Season 1, which is really exciting. Here's what I think the groupings will be for Season 5. The first group will be Mike, Dustin, Lucas, and Elle. As for Will and Max, Will have a different plot line and Max is sadly still in the hospital. The next group is going to be Joyce and Hopper. With Will having things going on, we'll most likely get the Joyce who freaks out over her son back, which is awesome, because we haven't really gotten a lot of moments with Will and Joyce in a while. The next group is Jonathan and Nancy. However, I'm not too sure about this one, because I don't know where their relationship is at. So it would be awesome if they teamed up with Steve and Robin, which is the next group. Steve didn't really have a plot in Season 1 and Robin wasn't in Season 1, so these two in a group makes sense. I would love to see Steve, Nancy, Robin, and Jonathan in a group. There would be a love triangle in here and it would be interesting to see. Maybe Nancy and Jonathan will be grouped up for the beginning of the season, then they can later be paired with Robin and Steve. I would love to see that. The last group, Will Person, is Will. He'll have his own arc this season, which is going to be so interesting to watch. This is Will's moment to shine. I do think Will be put with the party for some of the season, but as it goes on, he'll part from them. I actually have a lot of theories on Will's plot and part this season, so if you want to go read those, you can get some background on what he'll be doing this season. It's hard to tell what the official groups are going to be, so this is just a rough draft of what I'll think they'll be. I'm also not sure where to put Erica. I'll explain more later. If you want a theory on a specific group and their plot, comment down below. A lot of fans think Max is dead for good. I'm here to tell you, she'll probably be okay. In past theories I mentioned that Max's mind is stuck in Vecna's mind, because Vecna consumes his victims. This means Max has a chance of surviving. So in this theory I want to talk about her plot this season. I briefly talked about her plot on my theory Max's mind, but I want to go more into detail. Max obviously won't have any scenes with the other characters besides Vecna and possibly Eleven until late into the season. Her body will be seen with Lucas and others, but her actual mind and character will spend the season in Vecna's mind lair. Max is going to suffer this season once again. Vecna is going to use having Max in his mind to his advantage. He's going to treat her horribly. Max can still have a big part this season though. She can help the Hawkins gang. Being in Vecna's mind is an advantage to her, because she can see what he's plotting. The hard part is getting the information to everyone. But there will be some people visiting Vecna's mind, those people being Will and Eleven, and possibly more of Vecna's victims. I'm hoping we see Sadie on screen as much as we see the other teens. Just expect a cool Vecna and Max plot this season, unless I'm wrong. I'm going to be discussing Will's plot this season. I have already talked so much about Will. I've written at least 5 theories about him, so I have an idea of what his plot is going to be this season. I stated before that he's going to be with the rest of the party at the beginning of the season, the party being Mike, Dustin, Lucas, and Elle. He doesn't part away from them on purpose though. What takes him away from that group is Vecna. It's kind of similar to Will getting taken in Season 1, but a completely different concept. In a past theory called Will and Vecna, I talked about Will joining Vecna, but that won't just happen automatically. Check out the theory for more details. We are going to learn so much about Will this season. We're gonna see his relationship with his friends and family, but especially his relationship with Mike, and his relationship with himself. In Season 4, we got little hints of how Will is feeling deep down and we got to know more about his character, but this season we're really gonna see Will in his element. Vecna actually takes part in that. He is going to help Will find himself, but in a really bad and toxic way. I've explained before that Will and Vecna are connected. Vecna needs Will for his plan to work. And one way he can keep Will on his side is by turning him away from all his friends. Vecna is really good about getting into people's heads. Vecna is going to help Will find his independence by turning him away from his friends. He'll do this by showing Will visions and talking to him about how his friends have treated him, but Vecna will only show him the bad stuff obviously. Will and Mike's relationship ties into this too, but I'm going to explain that in another theory. Will is going to get his villain arc this season, but it'll spark from his own insecurities and the help of Vecna. You can read my other theories about Will to get more background and learn more about Will's plot this season. Let's talk about Will and Mike. The two have been friends for a long time, since kindergarten. Even though they've had their ups and downs, they've always been best friends. There's a lot of arguments whether or not an actual romantic relationship will happen between them, and I'm here to settle that. I'm very neutral when it comes to Byler. I like the idea of it, but when it comes to the logistics of the show, I'm not sure it will happen. But that's just for the conclusion of the show. There might be something that happens between them throughout the season. Although it wasn't implied in the show, we know Will is gay. Noah Schnapp confirmed it. We'll definitely learn more about Will and his sexuality in season 5. I'm not sure if they'll directly tell us he's gay, but there will be moments of Will coming to terms with himself and trying to fight it/accept it. This is all part of Will's arc that he's had since season 1. Mike ties into this, because Will is in love with him. It's unclear when these feelings began, but it doesn't matter. What matters is Will loves Mike, but Mike loves Eleven. This will obviously be a huge conflict for him. I feel like it's necessary for Will to tell Mike how he feels, because if he doesn't, he'll hold all this pain inside that he doesn't need. How Mike reacts is what's gonna determine Will's feelings pressing forward. Mike could be accepting or loving, or he could be disgusted and weirded out. Knowing Mike and his character, regarding season 3 and 4, he's probably leaning more towards the weirded out one. This will take a toll on Will. And whatever happens to him, he'll be grateful he at least told Mike, and eventually Mike will be proud of him, but also feel regret. Will and Mike's relationship will be at peak this season, and it will help a lot with Will finding himself. Their outcome depends on what happens to Will at the end of the season. We'll just have to wait and see what that is. Even though it may seem like Mike and Elle are the main relationship of the show, that's not the case. Mike and Will are the center relationship, because it's been that way since season 1. That doesn't mean Eleven isn't important. She is tied with Will in importance. Those two working together make the show, but Stranger Things is Will's story and Mike is a huge part of his story. The party is a term we're all familiar with. It's the group of kids we all grew up watching since season 1. Well, they're going to be back this season and they're determined more than ever to end this madness. The party has been split up pretty much every season, so this is their chance to come together. The party being Dustin, Lucas, Elle, Mike, and Will. Sadly, Max won't be part of their plot yet, but maybe she'll join them soon. Will also be drifting away from the party this season. I talked about his plot in my theory, Will's plot, so please go give that a read if you haven't already. The party's plot is something that's so specific and adds so much to the story. I do believe the party's part in the show is the most important, because they were the start of it all. The show's focus is on these special kids. There's no way they won't be able to defeat Vecna when all of them are working together. That's their overall goal, to defeat Vecna, and what's going to drive them to do this is all the stuff they've been through. Part of their childhood has literally been taken from them due to Vecna and the Upside Down. Especially Eleven. I really want to dig in more to her part in another theory, because it deserves its own, so stay tuned for that. The party's part will involve them plotting ways to stop Vecna. Finding a solution will require all of them. They all bring different attributes to the brainstorming phase of their plan. I think their biggest topic in defeating Vecna will be Vecna's weaknesses. They showed some of them on the show, but bigger reveals will be made this season. Reveals such as, Eleven is Vecna's weakness. Read my theory defeating Vecna and Vecna's weakness for more thoughts on that. Eleven will definitely have to go into Vecna's mind and do some piggybacking to really understand him. This will help a lot with finding his weaknesses, but it won't all be Eleven's job. Each party member will help out. Dustin is the theorist of the group. He'll try to understand how Vecna works and thinks. Lucas is going to be the #1 Max supporter this season. He's going to stay by her side and make sure she makes it out of this mess alive. Mike is going to take his leadership back and be the guide of the party. He's been a follower in the past seasons, but this season he's going to make sure the party sticks together throughout it all. Which obviously doesn't work very well, because Will drifts off, but that's partially Mike's fault. Read my theory, Mike and Will's relationship. I already talked about Eleven's part in the defeating Vecna plan, and I promise there will be a theory that goes into more depth on her part. Also expect character development from each of the characters in the party this season. Season 4 hit them pretty hard, so they'll each be dealing with their own stuff as well. I'll be writing and posting additional theories relating to that soon. Overall, the party is going to be stronger than ever and it'll be super exciting to see. Season 4 caused emotional damage to us all, but it also caused emotional damage to the characters in the show. The death of Max and the death of Eddie scarred the characters. In this theory, I want to talk about how Eddie's death had an effect on Dustin and how it will affect him this season. Dustin has been a beloved character since season 1. He's always been so uplifting and happy, but now, that's going to change. After Billy died, Max closed herself off and avoided talking to people. It'll kind of be the same for Dustin, except way more subtle. I imagine it being one of those situations where you are trying to cover up how you really feel, when deep down you're constantly sad. No one would expect Dustin to have these feelings, because he's always been so joyful, funny, and sarcastic. He also might struggle telling people, because of what happened with Max. All the characters are so focused on her that they don't notice how Eddie's death could have affected Dustin. His arc will add lots of depth to the show and share some really good messages. Because he's in this state, doesn't mean he won't want to finish this battle. It means he's determined more than ever to fight. Dustin is such a strong character and I can't wait to see this side of him, because we'll learn so much about him. This could also lead to some great scenes with Steve or someone from the party. Something that happens every time we get a new season is a time jump. Typically the Duffers skip 1 year, but it might be different this season. The confusing thing about a time skip this season is we left off on a cliffhanger at the end of season 4. A time skip would lead to a lot of questions circulating what happened after the end of season 4. But there has to be a time skip, because the kids grow up every season so they have to show that. Another thing popular in Stranger Things is flashbacks. The Duffers typically like to explain common questions using flashbacks. For example, the beginning of season 2 episode 2, we see what happened to Eleven after she killed the Demogorgon. Or in season 4 episode 2, we see how Hopper ended up in Russia. This means whatever happened at the end of season 4 will be explained further on in the season. Probably not in the first episode. Usually the first episode of every season is fun stuff with a hint of upside down madness, but I want to have a separate theory for that. I don't know exactly how much time they'll skip. I would love to see them skip a few years to when the kids are seniors in high school, and the teens are at college. But that doesn't really keep Stranger Things tradition with skipping to the next year. We could have both time skips though, 1 year time skip at the beginning and skip a few years at the end. We'll just have to see. Mike Wheeler, the character we all know and love, has been with us for 4 amazing seasons and will be coming back for the 5th. So let's talk about his part this season. This season Mike is going to step up and really be there for his friends. The whole party is coming back, so this is his chance to be the paladin and stand for good, because that's what paladins do apparently. Mike has been off to the side for a couple seasons. This is his chance to prove himself as a leader and a great friend. We know Mike would do anything for his friends, including jumping off a cliff, so hopefully he shows some of that this season. Death is an option for any character, so I can't really say whether he'll die or not, but let's hope not. He'll be helping with the party and he'll be the overall motivator. Mike likes to give speeches and repeat himself a lot. He'll make it clear to the party that they need to do this and they can't stop till the battle is won. I have this feeling that we'll see a different side of Mike this season, a side we've never seen before. I can't say much, because we barely know anything about season 5. Expect to see a Mike similar to season 1 Mike, but much more evolved. I'm very excited to see his part this season. For bonus stuff on Mike's role this season, you can read my theory will end Mike's relationship. Lucas will have a huge part this season. He's always been a main character, but we haven't dove down into how he really feels. This season we'll see that. Lucas and Max have been teamed up since season 2, but obviously this season it'll be different, so we'll really see sides of Lucas we haven't already seen. He is way more than his relationship with Max though. He's a strong, confident character and a sweetheart who is always there for his friends. Last season we really saw how much he cared about his friends, especially Max. It could be expected that he drifts off from the party, because he lost Max, but I think it'll actually bring him closer. I've said this before, but after everything that went down, he's determined more than ever to stop this madness. We'll still see the soft side of him, including scenes with him at the hospital with Max, and hopefully a reunion between the two. With this, we'll also see a more vulnerable side of Lucas, one where he really connects with his friends. I'd love to see all of the party members openly talking about what these terrible disasters have done to them. But I'd also love for him to have a little bit of a plot to himself, just to really see how he's feeling about Max being gone. Lucas will also probably blame himself for what happened. He'll think it's his fault, because he was supposed to be watching Max and making sure she's okay. Although we all know it's Jason's fault and Vecna's of course, he'll still carry the guilt with him. It'll be interesting to see how he handles this situation. I'd also love to see more touching moments between him and Erica next season, which we might get, since they bonded so much last season. Lucas will be the fighter this season, and not in a fighting the monster sense, but fighting for his friends. Lucas is an amazing character, so for the final season I hope we see some stuff from him we've never seen before. It's time to talk about the release date of this upcoming season. There's not really any evidence or clues to when the release date will be, so this will be based on how things have worked with past seasons and complete guesses. I think Season 5 will be released at the end of 2024. This is all based on logistics. Season 1 took 10 months to be released from the start of filming, which makes sense, because it was the first season, and everything was planned out for a very long time, so they could go very smoothly. Both Seasons 2 and 3 took 15 months to be released from the start of their filming dates. These seasons had a lot more special effects, so that's why it took longer to release them. Season 4 took 3 years, and we all know why. Because of COVID. Since we won't have that issue this season, the creation process for Season 5 will be a lot faster. The ratio of filming to editing is different for every season, so you have to base it off the entirety of both of them to total the waiting period. Season 5 won't start filming till June this year. I'm not sure if this is 100% confirmed yet. That means if the process takes 15 months, like Season 2 and 3, Season 5 will be released in September. As I stated before, this is only an estimate based on past seasons, so I could be completely off. But I think September would be a perfect release date for the season. I don't think Season 5 will be released any earlier than that, just because it took them a while to start filming. I will happily wait forever though, because I don't want Stranger Things to end. It's safe to say that Will's relationship with his family is stronger than his relationship with his friends. Specifically in this theory I'm going to talk about Jonathan's relationship with Will, and how it will take effect in Season 5. We all remember the scene in Season 4 at Surfer Boy Pizza with Will and Jonathan. It was a really sweet moment between the two, and you can tell it meant a lot to Will. Jonathan knows Will is gay. It's not confirmed of course, but there's lots of hints in all the seasons. Because of this, Will feel more comfortable around Jonathan. He won't open up though, because it's really hard for him, but the two have a very strong bond. It's been hard, because they haven't really gotten a lot of scenes together since Season 1 and 2, but this season they will. Will and Jonathan have a lot in common. They both feel or have felt like outcasts in their community. Jonathan has navigated through it a little, but Will hasn't yet. This is Jonathan's chance to help him feel like he belongs, and it doesn't matter what other people think. It sounds cheesy, but it's something Will needs to hear and understand. I think Jonathan is the only one who can get to Will about this. He'll help Will feel less alone. This will take a great part in the ending, because in my previous theories I've explained that Vecna and Will are similar also because they felt like outcasts. Jonathan getting Will out of that mindset will help him in the end. It'll separate some of the connections between Will and Vecna. It will also give him power and confidence, which will help a lot. I still don't know what will happen in the end, but I do know that Stranger Things is about family. Will and Jonathan deserve more special moments together. Hopefully we'll get to see that in Season 5. I know all of us are on the edge of our seats waiting to know who is going to die this season. I don't know the answer, but I have some ideas. Vecna has very specific victims that he attacks. I stated before that he would never kill Eleven, because he cares about her and she's becoming really powerful. And he wouldn't kill Will, because he needs Will for his plan. However, these two have someone in common, someone they both really care about. That someone is Mike. I'm not saying Mike will necessarily die, but he is in great danger. He's definitely on Vecna's list of targets. Vecna could use Mike to get Will and Eleven to do what he wants. And Vecna killed Max in front of Eleven, so he's going to be very ruthless about hurting Mike. This is his way of hurting Elle and Will without physically hurting them. Since Season 5 is extremely intense and insane, Mike could possibly die, but honestly, if he does die, the amount of anger and sadness that Eleven will be able to project with her powers is enough to destroy the whole Upside Down. And maybe that'll be the end of the show. Just kidding. There will be a lot more depth in the ending. Always remember that David said the ending of Stranger Things is beautiful. Despite all the craziness, we will get an incredible season, so if Mike does end up dying, we'll get a beautiful scene with Will or Eleven. I don't know what's going to happen, but I will say once again that Mike isn't safe. But to be fair, no one is. We all remember Mike and Elle's huge moment in Season 5 where Mike confessed his love to Elle. This was one of the most powerful moments in the season, because we learn that not only does anger drive Elle's power, but so does love. The relationship and impact that Mike and Elle have on each other is incredible. They really are soulmates. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Maleven shipper. I also want to say that this isn't in any way trying to push away Byler shippers, because there will be lots of Byler moments in Season 5 too, don't worry. But this theory is about Maleven and their relationship in Season 5. It's no doubt that Mike and Elle have had a connection since Season 1, they've evolved so much to the point where they both love each other. So in Season 5 we won't get any petty breakups or silly fights between them. Even though they are 16, or however old they'll be in Season 5 depending on the time jump, they can still have a very mature relationship. I don't consider them a basic high school couple, they have more than that. They've got shared trauma, they understand each other, and they've literally sacrificed themselves for each other. Mike not so much. But he tries. Season 5 is going to cap off their relationship in a beautiful way. We won't get to the point where they're old enough to get married, but we'll see where they end off. And I hate to say this, but I don't think they'll end up together. Eleven's character is way too complicated to have her arc end with Mike. There could be many factors to this happening. Eleven might die. That's a big one. Or Mike could die. Another thing to point out. But on another note, they still do love each other, and they won't stop loving each other. No one will get in between that love. Them not being together will be a choice between them, or due to the events happening next season. I have a feeling it will be Eleven's choice. We'll see. We will get a beautiful moment between them, and I'm so excited to see the Maleven moments next season. There will be lots of them. Mike and Elle are a pretty powerful couple and they've been through so much together. They deserve a happy ending, but a happy ending doesn't mean they have to end up together. They possibly could get back together in the future, because they are soulmates, but we won't see that unless there's a Stranger Things sequel. We'll just have to see what the Duffers have in store for Maleven. I'm sure whatever happens will be perfect. I want to add on to this in the future, so stay tuned. After Season 4 Volume 2 came out, there were tons of speculations to how this massive Upside Down problem can be solved. The Upside Down is stuck in 1983, which means when the gang visits the Upside Down, they're in the past. This may seem like an issue, which it is, but it also will help solve some of the mysteries. The gang doesn't know Vecna's full intentions. They need to go back in time to figure out what exactly happened on November 6, 1983. They'll do this by visiting the Upside Down. So in a way, they'll be reversing time. I like the idea of them going back in time to stop what happened in 1983. I'm just not sure how they'll do that since the Upside Down is set after Will was taken. Them going into the Upside Down will be the closest thing we get to time travel. That doesn't mean it won't be awesome though. The Duffers are very clever with these types of things. I know the clock will be a huge help and guidance. Clocks never stop ticking. That's what Vecna hates. Deep down the clock has secrets that we don't know yet. That sounds kind of confusing. The clock isn't going to come alive and help out obviously, but it does hold a lot of Vecna's past. It could help in that sort of way. That's also confusing, but just trust the process. This theory is just to state that time and reversing time may be a solution to stopping Vecna's plan, without having to sacrifice anyone. Remember that time is one of Vecna's weaknesses. If anything, reversing time and finding out the truth is a great start to stopping this madness. Bonus thing to think about, Vecna used the clock to haunt his victims. He probably uses it because it haunted him so much. The clock is his trauma/weakness, the same way Chrissy's trauma is an eating disorder or Fred and the car accident. Please go read my theories Vecna and Time number 2, Stopping Time, and Vecna's plan. It'll help this theory make a little bit more sense. It has been confirmed that the Season 5 ending was actually inspired by one of the Season 2 endings. This was shocking to hear, considering that Season 2 was a couple seasons ago. This probably has something to do with the fact that the Duffers had no idea how long the show was going to last or if it was going to keep getting renewed. So one of their ideas was epic enough to be a finale to the whole show. This ending wasn't necessarily the original ending for Season 2, it was just one of the options. Will end the Mind Flayer were the center of Season 2, it's about his aftermath from being in the Upside Down. It's actually really interesting that the idea for the ending of Season 5 came from this, because many of my theories describe how Season 5 will revolve around Will. This almost confirms Will being the end to all this madness. I have so many theories relating to that, so go read them if you're interested. Since these Season 2 endings were written early on, there probably isn't a ton of details in Season 2 that could tell us what's gonna happen at the end of Season 5, but I'm sure the Mind Flayer was mentioned from the very beginning. Vecna and the Mind Flayer are going to be the main monsters this season, so with this we'll get to see more of their connection with one another. That means not only will we be battling Vecna at the end, he'll also be battling the Mind Flayer. I'm going to guess that the ending they took from Season 2 is we're battling the Mind Flayer instead of it just being released and trapped back in the Upside Down. There's not much else to say, but this is one step closer to finding more about Season 5 and I'll take what I can get. This question has been surfacing the Stranger Things universe since Season 4 ended. Is Eddie alive? I hate to break it to everyone, but my answer is no. I believe lots of people think Eddie's alive because the Duffers are known to kill off characters then bring them back later. Examples of this would be Dr. Brenner in Season 1, or Hopper at the end of Season 3, even Eleven and Will had some sort of fake death and were brought back. I've come to notice that when it comes to Stranger Things deaths, you have to look for two things. Did we see the character die, and did we see their body after they died? With Eddie's case we saw both of these things. We saw him get attacked, and we saw him stop breathing while talking to Dustin. Therefore I'm sorry to say, but he isn't coming back. I know Eddie had a short run, but he did help a lot in his 14 minutes of screen time. Every character is given an arc. Within their arc they receive some sort of character development. Some characters got the short end of the stick, like Barb and Bob, but others got to have their character development before they died. Eddie was someone who got to fulfill his journey. He was able to find his strength and be the hero he always wanted to be. That was one of his purposes. He was also able to help Dustin find himself a little bit as well. Eddie served his purpose and grew his character, so the Duffers were able to kill him off. I'm sure if they brought him back, he could somewhat help the group fight the final battle, but there's no need for that. We're just lucky Eddie got to tell his story, and it was fun having him on the show while it lasted. This was the same case for Billy. He had that last-minute character development, so the Duffers were able to let him go. Even Brenner grew his character a little bit before he died. Not much, but a minimal amount. Characters will die off when their arc is over. Luckily lots of our Hawkins heroes have a long way to go before their story ends. I can't wait to see what Season 5 brings for everyone else. As for Eddie, he is alive, but only in our hearts. #Justice for Eddie. The past 2 Stranger Things days, we've received a tiny bit of content for Stranger Things 5. The first episode is called The Crawl, and the first scene involves a child singing a familiar song. I'm just going to get straight to the point. The child has to be Will and the song has to be Should I Stay or Should I Go? Stranger Things seasons always seem to begin with unfamiliar scenes that get explained later in the season. A little bit of foreshadowing. However, this season might be a little different. Since we're at the beginning of the end, why not start with a scene that can help explain what happened in Season 1? There's so much to unfold, so they need to start the explaining right off the bat, and that involves showing us what exactly happened while Will was in the Upside Down. Why was he chosen? Did he meet Vecna? All of these will be answered in the final season, and the first scene will be a glimpse of that. I'm thinking it could be a flashback from Will. He is going to be the star of the season, and 11, so it should start with him. I have so many theories on Will and Vecna, so check those out for more details about why Will was chosen. This theory is to state that the opening scene will be a flashback to Will in the Upside Down from Season 1. So they might need to do a little bit of CGI to get young Will Byers again. We won't get the full explanation of what happened with Will in the Upside Down and why he was there in the first scene, but we'll get a start to the whole thing. Just like in the previous introductions to seasons, we'll get a glimpse of what's to come in the rest of the season. I will be posting a theory on what I think happened in the Upside Down with Will and Vecna, so stay tuned for that. November 6, 1983 was the day Will was taken. He was brought to the Upside Down. Everyone else that was also taken hasn't been seen since, but Will was able to get out. There's a reason for that. Originally I thought Will was taken by Vecna for a reason that was different from everyone else. He was, but maybe not at first. We have to remember that the first person seen being taken is that guy in the lab, and the Demogorgon could have taken a lot more people. Will was just significant because the whole season revolved around finding him, but later he became significant to Vecna too. Everyone that was taken was brought to join Vecna's army. It's that mixed with being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I'll post a more in-depth theory about this later. The point is, Will was brought to the Upside Down to join Vecna's army just like everyone else. There may be a reason certain characters were taken, or Vecna could have sent the Demogorgon into Hawkins to see what it could find. I said that Will and Vecna have a connection. I still believe that's true, because Will was a target in season 2 as well. It wasn't till after he took Will that Vecna realized he and Will had a lot in common, and he won't give up until Will joins his side. In the Upside Down, Will spent his time trying to hide from the Demogorgon. The Demogorgon wasn't going to eat him. He just took Will in to join Vecna. That doesn't mean he wasn't going to die though. We have to remember, Vecna consumes all his victims, even the ones from season 1. Will was lucky to get out alive, but he's still connected to the Upside Down. Also, if you remember, Will did almost die at the end of season 1, but I'll explain that in another theory. When Will was brought back from the Upside Down in season 1, we thought everything was okay and it was going to be a happy ending. Except for it wasn't. Will left to the bathroom to throw up a slug into the sink, and then the world started glitching into the Upside Down. There were obviously some questions asked. What was that slug? And how did it get there? We figure out in season 2 that Will thinks Dart was the slug. But how did he get there? This could have been resolved in season 2, but I think it actually answers some questions about season 5. If we all remember, Will almost died in the Upside Down before Hopper and Joyce saved him. He had a huge long upside down snake or whatever down his throat. What if that was all part of Vecna's plan? Since Vecna existed back in season 1, there had to be a way he attacked people. I talked about in my previous theory that Vecna sent Demogorgons to bring in victims to join his army. Well, they weren't part of his army yet. He had to consume them first, aka kill them. Vecna consumed his victims in season 1 by planting these slugs and or suffocating them with upside down snakes. I don't know exactly what those things are called, but you know what I'm talking about. He did to his victims what he did to Will at the end of season 1. That was how he got them to join his army. Proof of this is Barb. Barb wasn't eaten. She was consumed, in a figurative way, by Vecna. She was last seen dead with a slug coming out of her mouth. The same type of slug we saw Will throw up. The Demogorgon took her to Vecna so she could be a part of his army. Meaning, the Demogorgon didn't kill her without Vecna's help. Luckily Will was saved just in time, otherwise the same thing would have happened to him. The slug definitely had something to do with connecting Will to the Upside Down, and that was all part of Vecna's plan. We're all anticipating season 5. But when is it going to come out? This is less of a theory, and more of guessing based off previous seasons. Filming for Stranger Things usually takes about 9 months, especially with a huge season like this one. Since they started filming this month, that means they'll most likely finish filming in September. As for the editing process, it takes about 6 months, so in total everything will take about 15 months. That means season 5 will be released in March of 2025 or April 2025 at the latest, which I think that would be perfect, since they've never released a season that early in the year before. I, however, would like them to take forever to film and to edit because I don't want Stranger Things to end. But anyway, expect a release in March/April of 2025. Time jumps happen every season to showcase the cast growing up. It's been a while since filming for season 4, so the cast has grown up quite a bit. This calls for a big time jump. Season 5 is going to take place at the end of 1987, specifically November 1987. That gives us a time jump of about a year and 9 months, which is a long time. It's going to be the biggest time jump we've seen on the show. There is speculation that they might skip more time because Eleven's hair is so long. But if you think about it, season 1 to season 3 was also a year and about 9 months, so her hair would be about the length it is in season 3. I think this is a perfect time setting for the season, because the kids have grown a lot and we get to see what they are up to. The kids, as in Mike, Elle, Lucas etc. would be juniors in high school. That means their age would be 16/17 depending on their birthdays. So this season they can actually legally drive. The teens, as in Nancy, Jonathan, Robin etc. would be graduated and some of them going to college. I'll go into more details about them in other theories. I picked the November setting because that's when season 1 takes place, and I think it would be a perfect full circle moment to have it take place at the same time. I think we will get a hint of Christmas in the setting too. So specifically we're looking at the end of November into December for the time setting. It would be cool to see New Year's, but I don't think they'll make it that far. We'll just have to see. Season 4 left more confusion than any other ending in Stranger Things. Everyone's so confused on how the characters are staying in Hawkins after everything that happened. I have a theory that'll hopefully answer those questions. I said the show would skip to 1987 next season, leaving us to question the massive gates that were opened, or why Hawkins is turning gray. Every season something happens and Hawkins lab people clean it up. meaning they cover it up before people can question it. But since the gates are massive, it'll be a hard mess to clean up, so the lab people would need to come up with a good enough lie to keep everybody calm. The Duffers posted a photo mentioning Halley's Comet. The comet was visible from January to April 1986, and the photo shows warnings of the comet's arrival. I think they're going to blame these disasters on something like that, possibly a comet landing on Earth. It's confusing, but how else do you explain what happened to a bunch of people that don't know about the Upside Down? And obviously they're gonna do some construction to hopefully shape Hawkins back to how it was. They're also going to do their best to contain it. Hawkins losing color shows that Vecna's plan is working and the Upside Down is taking over Hawkins. However, that whole plan is put on hold for now, because Vecna is currently MIA, which is a good thing. That way during the time gap nothing bad will happen. The decolorizing will stop spreading and Hawkins can be semi-normal for a little bit. That is, until Vecna comes back. During his hiatus he's going to be planning something bigger than ever. We'll just have to wait and see what it is. I want to start out by saying that this isn't really a theory. It's more of an idea. I have so many ideas for the ending of the show and this is just one of them. I truly believe that the ending will be unpredictable, so this is just for fun. Obviously there's going to be a huge battle with the Upside Down and Vecna in the end. But what if after that battle is over and Vecna is gone, everything goes back to normal? And by normal I mean it would be as if the Upside Down never existed. But along with that, everyone would also forget about Eleven. Eleven would get trapped in the Upside Down and Hawkins would go back to normal as if nothing happened. It's not all a dream though, because Eleven still exists. But nobody remembers that she exists. There are some shows and movies that have had this type of ending, but I think it would be cool to get a Stranger Things twist to it. Also along with this, I think we could possibly get a cliffhanger. Maybe we'll senses something. Or we see Eleven in the Upside Down. I don't know. Also if you're wondering about deaths, there will be some for sure. But what if those that died come back, because it was as if what killed them never occurred? Anyone that was killed by Vecna / the Upside Down would return. That would be the beauty of this ending. And obviously it'll be sad because no one, including Mike, will remember Elle. But they also wouldn't remember all the trauma from the Upside Down either. Will might be the only one that remembers a little bit of what happened. But that would be part of the cliffhanger. The point of this ending would be to confuse us and make us think. It's cool because it's technically a happy ending, but it's also a terrible ending that leaves us on the edge of our seats wanting to see more. There's a lot more to this, and I'd happily answer any questions. Remember that this is just an idea. I want to start out by saying that this isn't really a theory. It's more of an idea. I have so many ideas for the ending of the show and this is just one of them. I truly believe that the ending will be unpredictable, so this is just for fun. Obviously there's going to be a huge battle with the Upside Down and Vecna in the end. But what if after that battle is over and Vecna is gone, everything goes back to normal? And by normal I mean it would be as if the Upside Down never existed. But along with that, everyone would also forget about Eleven. Eleven would get trapped in the Upside Down and Hawkins would go back to normal as if nothing happened. It's not all a dream though, because Eleven still exists. But nobody remembers that she exists. There are some shows and movies that have had this type of ending, but I think it would be cool to get a Stranger Things twist to it. Also along with this, I think we could possibly get a cliffhanger. Maybe we'll senses something. Or we see Eleven in the Upside Down. I don't know. Also if you're wondering about deaths, there will be some for sure. But what if those that died come back, because it was as if what killed them never occurred? Anyone that was killed by Vecna / the Upside Down would return. That would be the beauty of this ending. And obviously it'll be sad because no one, including Mike, will remember Elle. But they also wouldn't remember all the trauma from the Upside Down either. Will might be the only one that remembers a little bit of what happened. But that would be part of the cliffhanger. The point of this ending would be to confuse us and make us think. It's cool because it's technically a happy ending, but it's also a terrible ending that leaves us on the edge of our seats wanting to see more. There's a lot more to this, and I'd happily answer any questions. Remember that this is just an idea.